Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ARC 402D, Architectural Design Graduation Project at Uzigi University. Today, we will host a graduation seminar from Professor Enzo Siviero. Özge Özgubanci, who is a PhD candidate and a research assistant at the Faculty of Architecture and Design of Uzigi University, will introduce our guest. And I would like to send a special thanks to Professor Siviero for being so kind and being with us today. And I do hope that we can, in the future, invite him to be here in presence, perhaps in the next semester.
I will be happy, of course. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody.
As you might know, this semester, our education is online, basically online, let's say. But we hope that in the following one, hence the earthquake emergency. So I hope that in the following one, we would be able to do something in class with you and invite you to be our guest at Uzigi University. Thank you so much. Çok teşekkürler hocam.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Siviero has a very great biography, but I have to mention it very shortly in here. Sorry, I have to because I can't see the screen. Professor Siviero is a civil engineer, and he started his teaching activity at the University of Menes in 1994. He became full professor of theory and design of bridges. At present, he is rector of Online University Campus Italy, where he teaches bridge theory and design. And after his graduation, over the years, he has carried out in-depth research into the theme of bridges, devoting a large part of his academic activity to teaching structures to architects in order to reach the highest point of connection between structure and form, mechanical behavior, and aesthetic features. This objective has been carried out giving huge importance to the conceptual design of bridges, paying particular attention to their integration in the landscape in order to obtain a more sustainable and less invasive development of infrastructures. And with reference to the professional field, Professor Siviero has designed several outstanding structures alone or in team with some engineers and architects. His main fields of activity are those of conceptual and detailed design, durability of concrete structures, structural diagnosis and monitoring, refurbishment and strengthening of bridges, flyovers and footbridges. He is author and editor of numerous books and articles on reinforced and pre-stressed concrete, management of structural works, construction, rebuilding and strengthening of roads, bridge design and large structures. The floor is yours.
So many things you can cut.
Okay, here we are. I'm screen sharing. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. I see.
Okay, please just let me know when I should change the slide and I will do so. Thank you.
Okay. So I think I can start?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Alessandro. I'll be very happy to be again in Istanbul, although virtually, because I spent at least 8 years of my life solving the problem of HALIC bridge with a great satisfaction, because we started with a situation which was really very, very bad. A lot of people were against this bridge. There's some committee of local and even international was just blaming this situation. Then they asked me to lead a group of experts in order to solve the problem. It means that we have to revise the design and mainly try to show how this bridge could be the best solution. And this is the work we have done together with my team, my local team between Padova and Rome and so on. But at the beginning, we had the opportunity to work with Professor Jörg Schleich, who is the pupil of Fritz Leonhard, who died just a couple of years ago. But we had this opportunity. Maybe this was his last engagement in international activities. Next, please. So HALIC Metro Crossing Bridge is something very special. What you see in the front is that one of the bridges we designed together with Alessandro Stocco, who is my best pupil. He's working on my office, but I graduated him as an architect, but I would like to say that he's a good architect of bridges. And although he is an architect, he's just dealing with structures very, very well. Next, please. Well, the group was this one, Alessandro Stocco, Michele Culate, and Viviana Martini. All of them are architects, and the contractor is Astaldi Gulemark. As you know, Astaldi is now absorbed by WeBuild in Italy, which is a big contractor company. This is the view of the situation. Please, next, thank you. This is a view, a bird view of the bridge as it is finished. It's a long history, and I try to go again along what we have done mainly. Next, please. Location, next. Okay, you know, everybody, you know, we are in Istanbul, therefore, till 10, 11 years ago, in the Golden Horn, there were only 3 bridges. It's well known, Galata Bridge, Uncapanni, and then this third bridge is connecting one tunnel from the other tunnel, working with the metro line. Next, please. The Golden Horn is very famous also from Might, because everybody who is dealing with history, from mythological history, is getting many information about HALIC, Golden Horn, Corno d'Oro in Italian. I'm sorry because some of the slides have just the Italian title, but we will try to translate, of course. Next, please. This is the view of the Golden Horn, the last part, because it's a kind of long line. It's a liquid bridge inserting into the landscape. And we were dealing with some new bridges which were not accepted finally because of the economical crisis. But it's very interesting because this part of Istanbul is, to my opinion, one of the most beautiful. It's quiet, it's generous in giving you emotion. Next, please. Another view of the Golden Horn. I mean, if you are not immersed in the site, you cannot understand the reason why the bridge is so important, and it should be directly connected with the site. The emotion, the suggestion, the situation of this landscape situation is very important. Therefore, we went along Golden Horn many times, even imagine what was the past, and including the Leonardo Bridge we will show you later on, because it was designed just for the Golden Horn. Next, please. The view before the Golden Horn HALIC, the HALIC Bridge was this is Galata Bridge, as you know. It's very well known. It's a kind of living bridge which I like very much. People that live there, not only because there are coffee shop, there are some restaurants and so on, because the Istanbul people are fishing. There are 100 people fishing along the time. This is a special picture because you have also the birds. The bird is just something which we somehow consider fantastic because they are looking the site from a position which we cannot imagine, but this suggestion is very well. Next, please. The World Heritage Sites, I don't enter too much into detail, but everybody knows what is the UNESCO. And next, please. In that case, we have a particular situation because Istanbul is one of the most famous sites where UNESCO put his stamp somehow, and you see some photos that everybody knows it, but I have to recall it because otherwise we cannot understand why this bridge was so important, because the risk to have a kind of interference with the existing minarets was very high, and this is one of the reasons why there was the opposition. But as you will see, we solved the problem, and we are very proud as we have solved the problem. Next, please. The few words on the different side. This is a historical peninsula. Everybody knows it. But what is interesting is mainly the walls, and of course Topkapi, the mosque, and so on. Next, please. This is fantastic. I've been there a lot of time. This mosque is something unbelievable, even from engineering point of view, not only from architecture and landscape design. Next, please. This is the Suleimani Mosque and surrounding. The color of the sky is something really fantastic. I feel Istanbul one of the most beautiful places all over the world. Next, please. The third one is this mosque, which is more simple if you want, but to me very, very interesting because it's a kind of a direct connection with the God. Whatever you have the religion, this is out of the religion anyway. Next, please. And the Istanbul walls. The Istanbul walls are very important, not so known outside as they deserve, but this is part, the integral part of the surrounding. You cannot imagine Istanbul without these walls, and the part of that from Genoese situation. It's very interesting because from Italy point of view, is Genova more present in Istanbul with respect to Venice. I was professor in the School of Architecture in Venice for 44 years. Therefore, the Venetian installation over the Mediterranean is very well known to me. Next, please. I don't have to comment, but I would like to say, if you look Istanbul from that side, it's marvelous. If you don't see it from the other side, unfortunately, the situation is not so good because the skyline is completely different. But what we have to preserve is this skyline, again with the color, integral part of our emotion when we are in the Golden Horn. Next, please. This is the position of the bridge. When we've been asked to deal with this, it was 2010. We had already the line, metro line, completely finished, including the 2 tunnels. So the position from one side to the other was fixed. The only point was the bridge. But due to discussion, this has been postponed some years. And when they asked us to solve the problem, it was a difficult task because, I mean, part of the population were against it, but it was necessary because it's a metro crossing, which is absolutely compulsory for the population. Next, please. This is the position, of course. Next, please. Istanbul bridges. We have next. We have to follow the situation because the three bridges of Bosphorus are very well known all over the world. I would say that this is also part of the engineering organization mentally, because from the first, the second, and the recent third suspension bridge is a kind of evolution of the different kind of design of suspension bridge. The third one is also a hybrid bridge. It's interesting because it has a part, it's a cable stayed, and the other part is a suspension. Next, please. We go through it. We start with the third one, which has been completed a few years ago, as you see. I don't enter too much into detail, you know everybody. Next, please. This is the second. I used normally this photo because you have just at the beginning, in front, you have the ship. The ship is a kind of representation of the spectacular growing up of Istanbul. Next, please. And this is the first, again, another nice picture because you have a mosque, then you have the shadow, it's just dark, and the mirror of the water, and the lighting system. The lighting system is really very nice. It changed the color during the night. The first approach I had with Istanbul was just in a hotel where this bridge was in view, and it was practically, to my opinion, a kind of poetic remembering of what I've seen in the books, and when you see it directly, it's an emotion fantastic. Next, please. But I don't miss Çanakkale. Çanakkale is just open 1 year ago, a little bit less, and it was anticipated, which is also very interesting. This is actually, and this is very important, the longest suspension bridge we have in the world, more than 2 kilometers. I just remember that the Messina Bridge, which seems to be started during these months, will be 3.3 kilometers, again, a world record. But it's a world record not only because it's the biggest, but because they anticipated 1 year the execution, and they use the Messina type deck. Next, please. Next. Okay, again, I show it also the position of Leonardo Bridge with the 2 islands, small island. We've been there many times with Alessandro Stocco, my co-worker, because we were just imagining how it could be the interpretation of the Leonardo Bridge actually. We don't have time to show, but we had some ideas to propose to the municipality. Then there was a project, it was not exactly what we could imagine as the best, because it was very, very big, very huge, too much, to my opinion. But anyway, I don't discuss so much. If Istanbul wants it, okay. So HALIC metro crossing bridge is between Uncapanni and Galata. Next, please. This is Leonardo Bridge. Everybody knows it. Maybe you know also that there are 100 people dealing with this and trying to interpret how it could be designed and so on. It was a world record, 240 meters span in bricks. That's practically impossible, but it could resist with the coefficient of safety 1, which is unimaginable. But anyway, we also try to interpret it with a small bridge, but It never happened that we could build it. Next, please. You see, having this kind of bridge in the Golden Horn, to me, is a kind of an acceptable situation. Golden Horn is a mythic place, and it should be crossed with the mythic bridges, but I understand that the traffic need more situation. Please, next, please. The view of the mosque with Uncapanni. Uncapanni bridge is quite interesting because it's on boat, and we had the chance to save it because the municipality wanted to demolish because it is just interfering with the water. But we try to understand that this is a typical situation of archaeological industrial bridge. There are not so many bridges on boat actually all over the world, but this is one of the most exciting, if you want. Next, please. And this is Galata Bridge. Galata Bridge is really motion. You can cross and you can leave the bridge. You interfere with the people. You feel that the bridge means life, and the people that use it are just interpreting the life, and also the fishing. Fishing is a kind of national sport of Turkish people. And again, every time you move your eye, you find the mosque and the minarets. Next, please. And we arrive to the metro line and the bridge. Next, please. Next. Okay, again, why the metro? Because this is the traffic we had. 24 hours per day along the first, the second, and now also the third Bosphorus bridge. It means we need a solution, absolutely. And the public transportation is the only solution we can have. It's to say that even now, a lot of people cross Bosphorus and HALIC with no, HALIC not so much, but the Bosphorus with the boat. Next, please. So again, a view of the historic peninsula, the three line, even the fourth line of the position, the bridge, the yellow part, and the line of the metro from Taksim Square to the other part, Yenikapı and so on. A view, the archaeological park, Suleiman Mosque, the Mosque, and land walls. Next, please. The original criticized design. We start with something which at the beginning, next please. At the beginning, the municipality asked a lot of people to design. And you see the different solutions which we're proposing from 2004. Even Calatrava was asked to design a bridge. You know that Calatrava is the most important bridge design. I say that the BC and the AC is not before Christ and after Christ, but before Calatrava and after Calatrava, as far as bridges is concerned. He's a very friend of mine, but normally Calatrava designed something not related to the site, but related to his perception and to the fact that he wants to put a kind of sculpture in the urban scale. I don't comment so much, but you see that from the beginning with this not so nice bridge, too heavy. Then the cable stayed bridge were just the orientation of that. Next, please. And when I arrived, there was the golden horn. The color was gold, and the horn up to the pylon, which is something that we consider too strong. And then even the pylon were too much high with respect to the mosque. As a matter of fact, the criticized system was that there was interference too much between the pylons and the minaret. This was the main feature of trying to change the solution, maybe with the arch bridge or other thing. Then we work on that just to show that this was the only solution with some correction. Next. Again, the mosque, the constant of together with the sound. It's very interesting because you have a kind of architectural sound in Istanbul when they start with the people that the muezzin, one and the other, and so it's like an organ. Just the music which I use in a couple of intervention because I register it. Next, please. Again, a view because the skyline is one of the most important things, because from far you have to get the emotion of this, and this characteristic of Istanbul is very peculiar with the minaret and the mosque. Next, please. Assessment and recommendation. In reality, we were not a designer, but we have been asked to solve the problem, and to solve the problem, we had to find a kind of scientific methodology to justify some modification. And we convinced the designer, who was an architect, who is an architect, is still alive, together with an engineer, Michel Villoger. Michel Villoger was the most famous bridge designer, mainly cable stayed and suspension bridge. Next, please. The group is led by me, then Professor Schleich, Professor Tatiana Kirova, she is a professor of historic restoration. Ibrahim is a very famous archaeological expert from UNESCO. Then Stocco, Culati, and Martini are my co-worker. They had also a PhD on this line. Next, please. I don't enter too much. There is a methodology, scientific methodology, study expressly for that, which was considered as a typical way of dealing with a problem like that. I'm very proud to say that before our intervention, there was not a real scientific path to solve the problem. And because it's more a decision, it depends on the suggestion of the single people. And mainly, one of the problems is that UNESCO has not so much experience on bridges. To deal with bridges, not only to be historian, restoration people, and so on. You need to know the bridge as it is built and the history of bridges. And something is not exactly what they have inside. Therefore, sometimes they asked me later on to put some ideas on accepting or not this situation. Next, please. During construction, we were so happy to follow the execution from the beginning, because when we were asked to deal with the problem, the foundation were under construction. It means that we have already some point which were fixed. We cannot move it from a geometrical point of view. And we had an hotel just at the 10th floor. We could see the overall system. Then I have no time to deal with all the evolution of the project execution, but it's interesting because we have seen this part not only during construction and so, but when it was rainy, with the sun, with the fog, with the snow, and so on, which is also very important. And you will see later on why it was so important. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, this is the site as it was when we arrived. You see on the more or less on the left-hand side the pylon, the foundation pier, which was very important. We are talking about 150 meter depth. Next, please. Next. The snow in Istanbul is quite peculiar. I even wrote some poetic thoughts on that. Maybe, Alessandro, I will send you something on my poetic attitude. Despite say, I feel myself a kind of transgenic engineer, the genetic modified organism, because as an engineer, nobody can understand that I could have some humanistic attitude, but after 44 years teaching in the School of Architecture in Venice, of course, you cannot stay as you are. And I feel myself a more architect now than engineer. I have a honoris causa architecture from Politecnico Bari in 2009. This is how they build. This is the part, the down part of the pylon, which also try to redesign a little bit. Next, please. Again, we are just showing that you see one thing, that the bridge, we are accustomed to see the bridge as it is finished, but the real engineering system and attitude is during construction, because during construction you see how you are good, because you have not the same coefficient of safety. Then the risk of collapse or damage is very high. So you have to pay much more attention to this part. Next, please. Landscape. This is one of the most interesting picture we have, because you see somebody who is just looking, because there is no landscape without interference with the man. Otherwise, it's just a picture. You have to understand the landscape depends on the man, positive and negative, of course. For me, the landscape is just Venice, because it has been solved the problem with the man, or just the delta of a Po River, or just the raising of Prosecco in Italy, or other, when you have the wine and so on, or the Rosa of Vercelli. Next, please. So this is the situation of Istanbul. It's unbelievable. We are talking about 20 million inhabitants, and maybe at least 10 going on and out. This is, you spend hours and hours in the street. Next, please. And you see how people live. This is just the waterfront of HALIC, where you can sit and eat good fish, good people that you can find, because in Istanbul you live in a different atmosphere. You may have Western people, Eastern people, black, white, even the dressing is changing. And anyway, you feel that you are immersing in the humanity. This is one of the reasons that I like so much Istanbul. I would say even more than Rome, because in Istanbul you have more possibility to understand the people, which is, to me, the most important part of our life. Next, please. And I would like to spend one word on this. These are the two islands that it seems to be the place of Leonardo Bridge. Alessandro Stocco and me, we try to design a kind of possibility of crossing, because we find that HALIC, the Golden Horn, should be lived more than it is. So having the possibility in between to move from one part to the other is quite important. It's just an exercise that we took as a complementary of the activity we have done for HALIC. Next, please. The wall, this is an aqueduct. I like so much the aqueduct. But the aqueduct is the living bridge, really, because it transports water, and you know that without water, the man cannot live. Excess of water means die, you die. Lack of water means die. In between, you have to drink. After 3 days that you don't drink, you die. But if you don't eat for a week, you don't die. And this is very interesting, because the crossing of this part, which is the remaining part of this aqueduct, even the crossing upstairs, is one of the most important features we can imagine. Actually, to enter in Istanbul, you pass under a couple of arches, and then you feel immediately that you are immersed in the Golden Horn. Next, please. This is just to show you the site. The site means that there are workers, there are people working on that. This is a very important point. We don't speak, we never speak about the contractor, the people that are dealing with, and so on. But it's a party important. Without them, we cannot have the work. Next, please. We have some, even some activity. Next, please. Because you have to know that we try immediately. Not this is just to show the reinforcement of the piers for the foundation. Next, because from the beginning. Next, please. From the beginning, we understood that it was not important only to design and erect the bridge, but also to solve the problem of the waterfront, because the waterfront of that part should be valorized. It means that you have to work and imagine that people can cross from one side, and on the other side they can move along the waterfront. This means that you leave the site and you come back to the past, look into the future. These are some views. Next, please. And finally, they accepted it. They accepted, and they are making. It's just a few years that they don't come to Istanbul, but maybe Alessandro can confirm me that they finished the pavement near the Sokollu Mosque, which is a kind of jewelry of Istanbul. You see, during construction, the bridge. Next. Again, another. I mean, the boat was also the boat for the contractor, which using from one. And you see the bird. The bird is just some picture with the bird. You cannot imagine Istanbul without birds. Gaviota, Gabbiani. Next, please. Detail of the place. Next, again. I come to I arrive to HALIC methodology, of course, but I would like to create the emotion of being near to the site at the beginning, and then see the bridge growing like a man, because the bridge is like a man. It lives from the beginning, small, and then it grows. Then you have to maintain, as the man cannot live without maintenance, and the doctor, medical doctor, and also the bridge needs. Next, please. The color during the day and the night, the shadow, and next, please. This is very interesting because the movie gives you the situation from one side to the other. So you are there and you are just turning a little bit to see how the situation changes and the landscape changes, and even the trees you see that are there. Unfortunately, they destroyed it, but it was something very, very interesting. There is no comment because you have to feel the interaction between the bridge, the site where the bridge is being erected. Then you move, you see the 4 minarets of the Mosque Suleiman the Magnificent. We remember that Mimar Sinan was an architect so much famous, even because he died at 96 or something like that. At that time, we are talking about 600 years ago, and which is not unbelievable. So a little bit, it's just it's not the professional movie, of course, but in any case, it is. I think we can also stop it. Just to go ahead. Next, please. Okay, now when we arrived, the first thing that we could imagine is to change the design. Even if we accepted immediately that the solution of cable-stayed bridge may be extradosed from the beginning, we tried to imagine that the pylon were too high, but we tried to design something different and with some detail. Even next, please. Even the cross section was designed just to interpret in a different way how it was at the original design. This was just a proposal, but we stopped immediately because the contractor had already organized the site. So the limit of our suggestion were related to the site organization, the contractor organization. Of course, we cannot change something which was impossible. I mean, the limit of the intervention was just because the work was under working. Next, please. Okay, so what we have, the modification we proposed. We tried to solve the problem of noise. Noise was along this 1 kilometer, because we had to say that from one tunnel to the other was already a little bit more than 1 kilometer, and the bridge itself is 180 meter span. Just the length of the train. So the noise is one of the most important elements. So we have the protection, but better. Next. This is the main feature. We proposed to reduce from 88 meter to 65 meter. Why? Because we don't want to minimize, this is point, minimize the interference with the mosque, with the minaret. So to reduce it without having the competition, we have to reduce the height of the pylon with the point that they were just under construction. So we have to cut and revise. You will see later on. Next. Again, just to look how it was from the beginning, the golden horn, you see, then this part. So the bridge was transformed from cable stayed to extradosed. Extradosed is just when you reduce the height of the pylon, the cable are more inclined, but the level of the top of the pylon was exactly the level of the square where the mosque is present. Next, please. You see, this is quite important. Even the cable from 63 to 47 was reduced. So we have the last part was free of cable. Next, please. Next again. Even the length of the station, original length of the station, the cover, the roof of the station was just 180 meters, exactly the length of the train. Then we decided that we could make half, leave it in the center, so 90 meters, because we reduce, in that case, we increase the permeability with respect to a people that is looking to the bridge through the bridge to look at the other side of the mosque, the historic peninsula. Next, please. This is quite important because it's free. The view is much better. Next. Then we reduce even the size of the cable due to good, better material. We reduce from 240 meters to 170. And it seems very, very, very low, but psychologically it's very important. Next. Then we change a little bit the bottom and the upper side of the pylon. The bottom, because as you have seen before, it was just geometrically and in engineering point of view optimized, but architecture and engineering should be married for a bridge. A bridge is a kind of bridge between engineering and architecture, and this is the feature that we are dealing with so much. And then even the upper side has to be designed in order to follow some psychological ideas and also construction problem, because when we were dealing with this project, the execution was under the way. Next, please. And the shape, you see, finally, we solved the problem with just minimizing what was necessary to get the result. Next, please. Even the ground connection, which is very important, because what is really exceptional, that at the level of 14 or even 20 meters above the water, you have to cross, and you see the position from the HALIC station, because it's there in the middle. You have the possibility to look to the historic peninsula. So with respect to the problem of interfering of the pylons with the minaret, which was minimized just a few degrees of angle, we have this possibility. This was only one of the most important features. Of course, we have to connect. Originally, design was a little bit heavy, but then we reduce a little bit. The next. So the steps. What we have done: assessment 2010 when we arrived, assessment of 2012 when we revised a little bit the principle of landscape design, alternative possible solution for a pile, alternative proposal for the cable stay, the preliminary acceleration of impacts, the golden bridge colors and lighting. This is a series of things from geometrical to technical part. Lighting and color really play an important role on that. Next, please. OV is an outstanding universal value, World Heritage Area of Istanbul. I mean, originally, was in danger from UNESCO. We went a couple of times to Paris to solve the problem, and finally we got the okay, and I would say also congratulations, because nobody was expecting we could solve the problem in such a way. Next, please. Also, this part was important because a lot of people say that we have to change the design. Okay, me and Professor Schleich, we propose different alternative design, and I will show you which one, please. This is the place. This is more or less from Sokollu Mosque, near the Unkapanı Bridge. Next. Next. These were the proposal. The first one was quite interesting. This is by Schleich. The second, the third, and the fourth. Four different solutions. Maybe the only one which was interesting was this, the first one. But anyway, next. Again, other solution by Schleich. Next. And this is the solution proposed by ourselves. I like so much the the arch bridge, and and the current design is the one you've seen on the bottom. Next, please. Then the criteria of evaluation were just the relation with the context, the coherence with the shape of the constant, non-interference, and of course, at the beginning, the cost. We made a matrix. I don't enter too much, but we put also some rendering next. And this is for the different solution we put. And finally, what is interesting that we found that the best solution was exactly the one that was imagined from the beginning. So the cable stayed bridge with this modification which I proposed before. Next, please. Colors. Originally, the design of the bridge was white, which we consider too strong because we didn't want to compete from a competition between the bridge and the context, the landscape situation. Therefore, we made a study on the color. Next, please. The colors, we spent 1 year to check the color in a different situation of Istanbul. Day, night, morning, afternoon, with sun, with rain, with snow, and so on. Next. And we subdivide the situation with different point of view. Next. Just to show. HALIC Cafe, Unkapanı Bankside, Ataturk Bridge, which is the Unkapanı, Galata Bridge, Beyoğlu, or Galata Tower. Next, but I will show you only a couple of them, just to see. HALIC Cafe, this is what we see, even from the past. I run because I would like to finish in 1 hour, maximum 1 hour and 10 minutes. Thank you so much. Next, please. You see in the different time, and then we define a kind of map of the color in the different position. So sky, sea, building, vegetation, infrastructure, historical bridges, buildings, background, and so on. Each of them has a part of important. They played an important role in the final decision, which is the kind of integral of all bridges, because we have to find one solution which could be a kind of mediation between the different situations. Next, please. This is another type, and also the color range, of course, because if you have to go to the scientific, it's not just to decide I like this because, well, I don't know, because I like simply. No, we want to show what were the decision, and then take the final position according to our scientific procedure. Next, please. And we took a decision which was the following. Provided we reduce so much the height of the pylon, but the pylon were just under construction. Therefore, we couldn't reduce the size of the pylon. So we interpreted the psychological reduction in having a different nuance. The color was just moving from more intense to less intense, with different kind of column. So there were just these 5 solution proposed, but then next, please. And this is the solution. See, from the beginning, which were white, we have this gray, which is more related to the color of the town. Next. And this is from the RAL 7040 to RAL 9010 with this modification of intensity till more or less a kind of not white, but similar to white. Next, please. Or in other cases like this. Next. From Galata Tower, this is the view. Next. And this is what has been solved. You see, from the beginning it was white. Next. Again, the Galata Tower, white. Then you see the difference. Psychologically, it's very important because from one this decision to have the bridge as the most important feature, then with the color, it is a kind of smooth, psychologically more near to the color of the town. Next, please. The pylon tips alternative, even this is a very important point, although you don't see so much, but it is not only psychological, but also a real situation. Next, please. Next. Next. Just to show that this is the situation of the pylon. These are technical drawings of the pylon, which were already made. So we have to solve the problem compatible with what was already designed. We cannot cancel what has been already done. It was a problem of cost, of course. Next. With some detail, no, I have no time to discuss it. Next. You see the pylon finally reducing the height was not very slender, so psychological was not acceptable from architectural point of view. Next, please. So we have to solve the problem at the top of the pylon. Next. Next. And we next. This you see the different situation which we proposed for the geometrical shape. Next. This was one. Next. This is second. Next. Third. Next. Again. Next. It was important to have this, just to remember the golden horn. Next. 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 It seems it's very similar, but we have to compare them just to take the final decision. Next. Next. More or less with the horn, some geometrical feature in that case, just to propose it. Next. Next. And all together, finally, the decision was taken just to have more simple on the right-hand side. Next. Next. Details, how to finish this part, because it was already built, constructed. Therefore, we have to make a connection with this upper part. So, at the same time, changing the architecture without modifying so much the technical feature of engineering construction. Next. We are coming to the end, of course. Next. This was not acceptable, of course, because no comment. Next. And this is the final solution by Yazid Fire Tower. Next. Lighting. Lighting is also a very important point. We try to have a different possibility of lighting. Next, please. We see. We have something, the strategy was disappearance or amplification. From that situation, we have two different or three different situations. This is during the night. We wanted to have the minimum lighting. Next. So, and because we have also some fog sometime. Next. I go fast because I don't want to move. So during the night, a lot of Golden City Hotel was the hotel where we were there during a few years. because the 10th floor we have the balcony on the Golden on the bridge construction. Next. So next. The bridge in the dark, completely dark, which is impossible, of course, because we have, for safety reason, we have to have the minimum lighting system next. But just to show how to insert the bridge into a skyline during the night. Next. So the silent presence. This is the minimum lighting we have, because it's a railway station. Therefore, you need to be safe with the lighting system. Next. The so-called cultural lighting, which is a little bit more, but at the same time, again, not the explosion the top. Next. Architectural lighting. This we decide to have a possibility of interpret the lighting system in order to show how was the original height of the pylons. You remember maybe something from the Twin Towers, they propose similar things. So we get this idea and getting this result. Finally, they don't use it as far as I know, but the proposal was there. Next. Another view, but again, but I don't think we have time to go ahead with this. No, you can stop, Alessandro, because yes, we have no time. The principle for landscape design, we just go fast. I have 10 minutes more, Alessandro. It's okay.
Yes, you can continue. No worries.
Okay. Thank you so much. Next, please. So this is something more. For me, this is more important than the bridge itself. It means that all this color is the waterfront. My idea was, our idea was to cross Galata, and from one side to the other, you cross Galata, then you go either to Uncapani, actually, no, before the HALIC bridge, or use the HALIC bridge as a kind of landscape view. And of course, you can go on like a possibility of immersing yourself in the town. Next, please. And this has been accepted by municipality. Then they are make at least this northern part. They are sold with new pavement. We imagine also some possibility of crossing the road, the southern bottom part, because you have a road and crossing the road is risky for the people. So, but they didn't accept finally. There was a lot of ideas, of course, we proposed. Some of them have been accepted, some of them not so much. Next, please. You cannot do anything without immersing yourself into the green, into the situation, which is actually, even just moving along is something interesting. Next, then you find the small restaurant or just you can eat something. Next. And what about this? This is, we solved also a problem. We save, because they wanted to demolish everything here. But if you demolish this kind of shops, it means that you cut part of your cultural heritage. Next. Even that, it's very simple, very, I would say, like in family. It could be the garden of your house. Next, please. Even for the young people, for the boys. Next, please. Part is already sold, of course. Next. They made the pavement, the wooden pavement completely. This means that you can walk along. And this is so-called mosque, very nice, refurbished recently. And unfortunately, is a little bit down. So part of, I suggest to get more distance between the new pavement to to the mosque, but they didn't accept it. Next, please. This is now the connection between psychological connection, because it's the geometric, the Genoese wall and the bridge, which is just moving along. We solved the problem of the refurbishment of the walls with that totem, just to show the history. Next, please. Next. So it's a kind of a qualification of the place. Even the deck, you see, the deck is also interesting. I mean, very simple, very smooth, but very nice. Next, please. Again, I show you this combination with the cars, but not so many. Next, please. Now, some few, just to show you what is the situation now. Next, please. This is the view which I use so much. I mean, I feel that finally the solution is not bad. Of course, we have a new bridge, new generation of bridge between Galata Bridge and Uncapani Bridge. But this is the activity. I mean, nowadays we can see a lot of cable stayed bridge. This was the best solution we can imagine. Next, please. Together with the color and lighting system, of course. Finally, they didn't do the graduation of the color, so they put in 3-4 steps. So you see, the situation finally is not the best. But anyway, the principle of getting more dark and better on the top is accepted. Then you see, the golden horn was just a little bit made. So a very delicate solution. Next, please. Next. Here you see better. You see that they use a kind of triangle, changing the intensity of the color, reducing it. Next, please. I come back to this part because this is the living part of the Istanbul. Next. This is really very modern. I understand that, but I mean, it's two parts from one side to the other. How to go in or out with stairs and elevators, of course, and some green, of course. Even the pylons of the bridge are interesting design. So a kind of hand of the designer you see, with some orientation by ourselves. Next, please. The totem, as I told you, we asked to put something with the history of the different site. In that case, of the Genoese wall. Next. It should be a kind of, to my opinion, a kind of path of history from past to the present. So this is from the bridge, one side next the Atatürk Bridge Uncapani, on the other side the Galata Bridge with historic peninsula. Next. This is the bridge as it is finished. Can you imagine that thousand and thousand people cross it, not only to get the metro, but also to go on the other side, making kind of jogging and so on. Next, please. Again, next. Of course, this is the color I like. Next. Lighting system, the minimum. This is the final one. Next. Again. Next. And this is a kind of joke. My co-worker Alessandro told me, Professor, you have to put from Galata with a hand like this. So give me a hand, I will elevate the bridge. And this is also used by Alessandro for the intervention of this seminar. I am very happy about this presentation, and I thank you very much, Alessandro. Please, anytime you, as soon as possible, I would like to be back in Istanbul because I feel Istanbul as my second home. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Siviero, for your presentation, and where we learn the long history of the modification of the original project of the bridge and how many options were explored. Let's see if we got any comments or questions from the audience, both in class and on Zoom. If anyone would like to make a question or comment, raise your hand, turn on your microphone and camera, and go ahead.
Of course, my presentation is free, so you can get it directly without any problem. Although some slides are in Italian, but anyway, picture, fortunately, you understand everybody. Okay? Okay, can I therefore make it as a PDF and put it on our learning management system for the students to download? Of course. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, any comment or question, please? You're welcome to raise your hand or turn on your microphone and go ahead. Speak up. It seems impossible that nobody has some question to put. Let me break the ice by saying to our students, not to Professor Siviero, that we have a very good example of what design means. I would say exploring many different possibilities and then choosing the best one. So we have seen this for the color, for the height of the piles of the bridge, for the length of the station. So moreover, for the overall design of the bridge, we have seen like 15 different possible alternatives. So I do believe that this is a very good, example of a methodology of design. So you explore, if not all the possible alternatives, a number of possible alternatives. And then upon a clear set of parameters, you evaluate them and decide which one is the best. So whatever you're designing, may it be a bridge or even a small kitchen, it is exactly the same thing. Exploring all the possible alternatives in terms of form, position, material, color, height, length, distance, cost, structure, and then evaluating within all those possible alternatives which one is the best, more beautiful, more convenient, and so on. So it's not like making a painting, it's something else. Design is exploring all these possible alternatives. So thank you very much, Professor. That was a really good lesson for our students who are designing the waterfront on the northern shore of the Golden Horn, just next to the bridge, for a building which should be the Museum of Galata as a function. And the length of the building is probably 1/4 of the length of the bridge. So now, again, talking to my students, I would also recommend that when you design your building, which is not as big as the bridge, but maybe 1/4 or so, take a lot of care. How does your silhouette, your building silhouette, relate with the surrounding landscape, including the bridge, but also including what is on the other side of the Golden Horn, the Blue Mosque, the Suleimani Mosque, the Hagia Sophia, and all those other buildings. Whereas on this other side, Galata Tower and all those other buildings. So you're not designing a box. You're not designing a hotel in the middle of nowhere. You're designing a piece of the waterfront of Istanbul. So let's see if we have some comments or questions.
Hello.
Hello. Ulvi, I didn't mention you. He's the real man who organized everything. He was a site manager, and we started. He's my son, actually.
Thank you very much, Professor Siviero. Thank you very much. So I would like to just make a small comment. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I should also thank you very much for all the input that you have provided during the realization of this bridge. Just one comment that I would like to make on this presentation and the principle of designing such a big bridge. It is very important for the designer to work with a multidisciplinary team because what we see as the photos here depend on a huge study of interdisciplinary engineering and architectural input. The geotechnical part, the water, hydrology, everything was in very detail examined, and the results came after. So it needed a huge experience, just like Professor Siviero or Professor Schleich. He mentioned about all the other professors who put their input. They had this expertise to come up with all these alternative solutions. But one thing I learned from them was that this bridge will be lasting for ages. So when we design a bridge, we consider that the lifespan would be minimum 100 years. So the design we are putting here, not only physically, but also in the brains of the people living there, is a huge change. So what we are putting there should last for ages, and we should consider this. Even the approval procedure for this bridge, I should mention it started around 1970s. In 1985, the bridge was approved to be built, and the realization is, I guess, 2014, as far as I remember. So it needed a huge time, and the designers had to keep this in mind, that they need to design such a big project on lasting for ages. So these are my two comments that I wanted to make. Thank you very much again for this presentation, Professor Siviero. I would also like to thank to Alessandro as well for creating such a unique place for such experiences to be shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you for this very nice presentation, because I remember during the construction phase, there were a big discussion in Turkey about if the design of the bridge is suitable for this area and if it is in accordance with the SULET and everything. But actually, it was very nice for me to see all this design process and all the changes that it went through. Thank you very much.
Yes, let's pick one more from the students.
Yes, the student, the question are very important. I would like to push that somebody can put this idea, which is quite strange. This design is not so well considered, but we are very proud because it's an example on how every design should be performed when we are dealing with site very near to outstanding universal value by UNESCO. This is the idea. Anyway, yeah. You can also put some question online with the email. I'll try to answer even the comment of the presentation, because I like very much to understand if you have appreciated or not, even the negative part. I'm not in favor of only optimist and positive way. Even the negative way we are working to improve the situation. Even you, Alessandro. Huh?
No,
thank you.
Perhaps I can make one other comment. What is really interesting in this, bridge, in this very long process that brought the bridge to life. That more than designing a bridge, it is designing the background of the city. So the bridge, especially in the chromatic study, the bridge seems to be considered more than a bridge. It is a bridge, of course, but as if it was the frame of the city, of the landscape, of the historical landscape. In a way, the historical landscape of Istanbul is much more important than the bridge visually. So, all those considerations about the height of the bridge and the color of the bridge and the illumination of the bridge in relationship with what is behind the bridge, the historical skyline, is very interesting, I believe, for our students, because again, now talking to our students, you're not designing an object, you're designing the frame of the city, which is the most important thing, okay, the historical city. So the skyline, the buildings, the colors, the material. Even though you're designing a museum, you're also designing something that, as Siviero and the team did in the bridge, is not trying to be an object itself, but trying to be as much as possible a part of the main picture, which is the city itself. That is something I really appreciate. Grazie.
Grazie. Thank you. This was exactly what we were thinking, and we transmitted to our students. We are making some seminars, landscape and architectural landscape, and this is one of the examples that we show for the whole comprehensive situation, because you cannot design anything, but especially a bridge, without taking into consideration where you put the bridge, what is the history, what is the landscape situation, what's the historical perception, even with the people, the color of the people, the color of the houses, and the lighting system in Istanbul is peculiar, because the view you have during the night is something unbelievable. You've seen that the Galata Bridge is white. All other features are golden, yellow. This is also something we would like to, and the color of the bridge finally was white, because Galata Bridge is white. This was all the reason. So we wanted to have a kind of dialogue between Galata and the new bridge, more than with Uncapanni, because Galata you leave because you cross on foot. Difficult is in crossing Uncapanni, so Atatürk Bridge, foot, because it's a very, very heavy traffic. And therefore, the position of the new HALIC bridge for the cross, for the metro, is so important, because you use to cross the Golden Horn so much. And at the level where you see the Golden Horn as a whole, which was impossible before. So you have, in that case, you improve the view of the historic peninsula. Okay, so.
Yes, thank you very much. Anyone else?
Thank you very much. It was really nice to see the background, the history of the bridge.
Okay. So if
we can therefore thank the guest, Professor Siviero, for his lecture.